The Ford Mustang looked like a sporty little coupe built for weekend drives and teenage dreams. But behind that famous galloping horse was one of the smartest business decisions, and one of the biggest cultural shifts in American automotive history. When the Mustang arrived in April 1964 for the 1965 model year, Ford could hardly believe the reaction. Dealers were overwhelmed. Buyers crowded showrooms. Newspapers covered the launch like a national event. In its first full year alone, Ford sold more than 400,000 Mustangs, turning the car into an instant cultural phenomenon. But the real story behind the Mustang revolution was not simply about horsepower or styling. It was about timing, clever engineering, smart marketing, and a series of decisions that permanently changed the American car industry. And once you understand how the Mustang truly became America's defining pony car, you begin to realize this was never just another car launch. It was a revolution hiding in plain sight. What most people never realized was that the original Mustang came from surprisingly ordinary beginnings. Beneath its long hood and sporty bodywork, much of the car was based on the compact Ford Falcon. That sounds almost unbelievable today because the Mustang became such an icon of performance and freedom. But Ford's goal was not to build an expensive European-style sports car. The company wanted an affordable sporty coupe that could be produced quickly and sold to younger buyers at a reasonable price. Using Falcon components saved development costs and reduced engineering time. The suspension layout, chassis structure, and many mechanical parts were already familiar to Ford engineers and mechanics across America. This meant the Mustang could be launched quickly while remaining inexpensive to build and maintain. And that decision changed everything. Because the Mustang was affordable, ordinary Americans could suddenly own a car that looked exciting without paying luxury car prices. Imagine being a young driver in 1965 and seeing that long hood, chrome trim, bucket seats, and sporty dashboard for the first time. It looked fast even standing still. Yet it was comfortable enough for commuting, dating, road trips, and everyday errands. That balance became the heart of the pony car revolution. The Mustang delivered sporty styling and emotional excitement in a compact, affordable package. Soon, every major American automaker wanted a piece of the same market. But here is another surprising truth. The Mustang almost became a completely different kind of car. Before the production version was finalized, Ford experimented with smaller two-seat concepts inspired partly by European roadsters. Early design studies focused heavily on sporty proportions and lightweight styling. The company quickly discovered something important about American buyers. Most people loved sporty looks, but they still needed practicality. They wanted back seats for friends or children, trunk space for luggage, and enough comfort for daily driving. So Ford changed direction and developed a four-seat coupe and convertible instead. That single decision dramatically expanded the Mustang's audience. Young families could use it. College students could afford it. Returning servicemen could aspire to own one. Even buyers who had never considered themselves car people suddenly wanted a Mustang parked in their driveway. The Mustang succeeded because it blended excitement with usability better than almost any American car before it. And then Ford did something that now feels normal, but in the mid-1960s seemed revolutionary. They transformed the Mustang into a deeply personal car. Buyers could choose between hardtop, fastback, and convertible body styles. There were economical six-cylinder engines and several V8 options for drivers who wanted stronger performance. Customers could add GT packages, fog lamps, rally wheels, special interiors, vinyl roofs, wood grain trim, stripes, styled steel wheels, and countless appearance combinations. The reason behind this strategy was simple but brilliant. Ford understood that buyers wanted individuality. Two Mustangs parked side by side could look completely different depending on how they were ordered. One could appear elegant and luxurious. Another could look aggressive and race-inspired. This flexibility allowed Ford to reach an enormous range of customers without changing the car's core identity. And emotionally, it created something powerful. Owners felt personally connected to their Mustangs. Even decades later, many enthusiasts still remember the exact color, engine, radio, and wheel design their first Mustang had. Few American cars created that kind of emotional attachment so quickly. But despite its sporty appearance, the early Mustang was not originally engineered as a pure high-performance sports car. The first models focused more on style, comfort, and broad market appeal than aggressive track capability. Compared with some European sports cars of the era, the handling could feel softer and less precise, especially in base versions equipped with smaller engines and standard suspension setups. Ford understood these criticisms, particularly as younger drivers became increasingly interested in performance during the late 1960s. The company realized the Mustang needed stronger performance credibility if it wanted to maintain excitement around the brand. And that is where one of the most important names in Mustang history entered the story, Carroll Shelby. Shelby had already earned enormous respect through racing and high-performance car development. Ford partnered with him to transform the Mustang into something sharper, faster, and more serious on both the street and the racetrack. The result was the Shelby GT350 in 1965, followed later by more powerful models such as the GT500. These cars featured suspension improvements, stronger engines, revised tuning, distinctive styling, and track-focused upgrades that separated them from ordinary production Mustangs. More importantly, Shelby Mustangs gave Ford something priceless: racing credibility. What made this partnership so important was not only the cars themselves. It completely changed how people emotionally viewed the Mustang. Imagine hearing a Shelby Mustang roaring through an American town in the late 1960s. The stripes, hood scoops, side exhausts, and aggressive stance gave the car an identity that felt rebellious and exciting. For many young Americans, it represented freedom, confidence, and the growing spirit of performance culture. And Mustang racing success only strengthened that image. Ford campaigned Mustangs successfully in events like SCCA competition, helping prove that the car could be more than just stylish transportation. Victories on the racetrack gave ordinary buyers the feeling that a little bit of racing spirit existed inside their own car. But as Mustang popularity exploded, something unexpected happened across the entire automotive industry. Ford's success forced rival companies into action almost immediately. Chevrolet introduced the Camaro in 1966 for the 1967 model year. Pontiac launched the Firebird. Plymouth expanded the Barracuda. Dodge later entered the battle with the Challenger. The Mustang had effectively defined and popularized an entirely new market category that became known as the pony car. These cars shared several key traits: sporty styling, compact dimensions, affordable pricing, and a wide range of engine options. Suddenly, young American buyers had an entirely new kind of car to dream about. But competition quickly intensified. Each company wanted more horsepower, more aggressive styling, and a stronger street reputation. The horsepower wars of the late 1960s pushed the Mustang into a dramatic new phase of evolution. By 1969, and especially by 1971, the Mustang had grown noticeably larger and heavier than the clean, compact original design from 1965. There were several reasons for this transformation. Buyers increasingly wanted larger engines, improved comfort, wider interiors, and more aggressive styling. Federal safety regulations were also becoming stricter, influencing vehicle design throughout Detroit. The 1971 to 1973 Mustangs looked wider, lower, and far more muscular than earlier versions. Big block V8 models delivered impressive straight-line performance, particularly in cars like the Mach 1 and Boss variants. And visually, these later Mustangs looked intimidating. Their long hoods, deep grilles, and broad stance gave them tremendous road presence. Imagine seeing one pull into a gas station in 1971. Even standing still, it looked powerful. But not every enthusiast welcomed the changes. Some longtime fans believed the original Mustang's lighter and simpler personality was slowly disappearing beneath increasing size and weight. The car was evolving from a nimble sporty coupe into something much closer to a traditional muscle car. And then America itself began changing. By the early 1970s, rising fuel prices, stricter emissions laws, and increasing insurance costs started reshaping the entire performance car market. Insurance companies began charging higher rates for high-horsepower vehicles, especially for younger drivers. At the same time, federal emissions regulations forced automakers to reduce engine compression and horsepower levels. The golden age of unrestricted American performance was beginning to fade. What makes the Mustang story remarkable is that Ford adapted instead of abandoning the name entirely. Many classic muscle cars struggled during this period, and some disappeared temporarily as the market shifted toward efficiency and practicality. Ford continued reshaping the Mustang to survive changing customer demands and government regulations, and without those difficult adjustments, the Mustang might not have survived into future generations at all. And perhaps that is the most important truth behind the Mustang revolution. The Mustang was never successful simply because it had a powerful engine or sporty styling. Plenty of cars had those qualities. It succeeded because Ford understood something deeper about American drivers. People wanted excitement without giving up practicality. They wanted style without luxury car prices. They wanted a machine that felt personal, youthful, and optimistic. You could be young or middle-aged, wealthy or working class, a first-time buyer or a lifelong enthusiast. The Mustang made people feel connected to a bigger cultural moment. That is why the first-generation Mustang still feels special today. The sound of a small-block V8 still turns heads. The fastback silhouette still looks timeless. And for many people, seeing a 1965 to 1973 Mustang instantly brings back memories of open highways, drive-in theaters, summer nights, and the golden age of American motoring. Even people who never owned one often remember the Mustang from somewhere in their past. Maybe a neighbor had one parked outside. Maybe a friend's older brother drove one to school. Maybe you saw one cruising slowly through town on a warm Friday evening with the windows down and music playing from the radio. That emotional connection is difficult to manufacture. Yet the Mustang created it almost immediately. And more than 50 years later, it still survives. Not just as a classic car, but as a symbol of a unique moment in American history when optimism, youth culture, affordability, and performance all came together at exactly the right time. It was more than a successful automobile. It was the machine that started a revolution. Did you ever own a classic Ford Mustang from this era? Or was there one you always dreamed about driving? Share your memories and stories in the comments below. And if this video brought back a little nostalgia, send it to someone who still remembers when the pony car revolution first changed America forever.